Welcome to your facial proportion alignment practice. And this is the little packet. So you're going to find this packet in with your papers. You will need your ruler and you're going to need a color, like a colored pen or a highlighter would work. I wouldn't use just pencil because it's hard to kind of see the lines on your paper. All right, so what we want to learn from this is something that we're going to need to draw. So in our self-portraits on the final draft, we're going to draw the contour outline. We'll draw like the ears, the outline of the hair, the outline of like where the hair meets the forehead, your hairline. And then the first facial feature we'll draw are the eyes. There will be a demonstration on how to draw them, but we need them to align everything else up. So I use the eyes for everything, like how wide is the eyebrow compared to the eyes? Where does the nose line up compared to the eyes, etc. So for some generic ones, in general, the top of the ear, oh, okay, there we go. I thought I tested out that pen. The top of the ear lines up somewhere near the eyebrow area. And then the bottom of the ear lines somewhere up with the nose, or if you have bigger ears like I do, mine come between my nose and my mouth. And so you can kind of take a line and take your hand and feel from your mouth all the way over, and you should hit, or near your mouth, between nose and mouth, you should hit your ears. You can look at this in the picture, or sorry, you can look at this in the mirror, but everyone's face is proportioned to itself. So you may not look in proportion to someone else, or you don't think you do, which you are. Everybody's face is proportioned to itself. So the side of the nose should line up somewhere near the tear ducts. The edge of the mouth, if you're looking straight ahead and not smiling, it should line somewhere near the center of the eye, near the iris, or if you have a little bit of a smaller mouth, it might be a little bit further in. I also look at the fact that like that little dip in the upper lip lines up with the center of the nose. So even if your head is tilted away, that little dip in the lip is still going to line up with the center of the nose. So very few of you are looking straight ahead and straight at the camera. So there are some different like options in here and like funny faces, etc. So we're going to look at how we have, what I mainly look for, let me change colors, is the central axis. So we're going to label this. The central axis. And so if your head is tilted, that central axis would be tilted, whichever way your head is tilted. And so we'll find it in some other pictures. Then I look for eye level. And so I'm going to label that eye level. Because everything is based off of those two axes. So the nose is parallel to the eyes and the mouth is parallel to the nose and eyes. So even if your head is slightly tilted, then your nose will be slightly tilted and your mouth would be slightly tilted. All right, so with the ruler, whatever color you want to use, I'm going to go corner to corner for the eyes. And I'm going to make a mark. And notice how his ears, like one is slightly higher, one is slightly lower. No one is symmetrical completely, because in utero, when you're a fetus in the womb, your face develops, the two sides develop separately, and then they fuse in the middle. So that's why in the middle of the nose you have like your septum, you have like some tissue like running in the center, like where your lip is. You have muscles that kind of connect in those areas, but everybody kind of freaks out about not being totally symmetrical, but nobody is. Even like the most famous models in the world, they're not symmetrical. Because your face, like this side of the nose develops separately and then it fuses together in the center. Your skull, like when you're born, it's not even fused together all the way. All right, so then we'll do his central axis. Okay, so that's what I want to see on all of the pictures. I want to see a central axis, the eye level, the nose, and mouth. And so we're looking for parallelness, like they're the same horizontal type of line. All right, you're going to do all of these pictures because this is probably the thing that beginning artists, and even my upper level, I'll even have 7, 8 kids that will forget about the parallel, the parallel lines. So I'm going to line up in the center. Okay, I go outside corner to outside corner to find the angle of the eyes. And then that should be, if I just pull my ruler down, that should be about the angle of the nose. That should be about the angle of the mouth. And we can't see her ears. So her head was slightly tilted. So everything slightly tilts, and then the eyes, nose, and mouth are parallel. All right, so we do have one looking forward in the center, central axis, corner to corner for the eyes. And then I would look at how his eyes are slightly tilted, like slightly, because his ears are slightly tilted too. So you can kind of see they're like offset a little bit. So that's what I look for first, is like the outside corner of the eyes, because then his nose is slightly tilted and his mouth is slightly tilted. So we're going to use our observation skills and look at a bunch of other people's faces. Some of these are former students, some famous people, some random pictures that I just found on the internet. Okay, so corner to corner for her eyes. So her head is slightly tilted. And once I draw the line on there, it becomes obvious just how tilted it is. It didn't seem like that in the beginning. So I go corner to corner for the lips too. And you can kind of see where her ear lines up. So if I were drawing that ear, I'd kind of compare like where does the ear line up according to the nose. It's like between the nose and the mouth. Okay, so let's say you're not looking at the camera, but still, we're going to find your central axis, corner to corner for the eyes, which is parallel to the nose. And I would give myself just like the guideline, but of course he's making a face, so just the center of the lips are parallel, and then we would look at how they line up. So the one thing that I want to go back and do is how do the sides of the nose line up with the eyes? So we did all of the major lines. Now we come back, I look at the side of her nostril, and I'm making sure it's parallel to the center, and it lines up with the center of her eye there. We're not going to use a ruler for all these. I just want you to kind of see. Okay, the edge of the mouth lines up with the center of the eye there, and the edge of this mouth, because she's tilting away from us, it is the center of the iris, the actual eyeball. Okay. So for his nose, it lines, and because when you smile, your nose gets a little bit wider because you're stretching the skin a little. So his nose lines up with the center-ish of his, or the corner-ish of his eye, and then it ends up with a white part over here. And his head is tilted slightly, like in one direction. All right, his mouth lines up in the center of the iris, or the color part of the eye. Same over here. For her nose lines up with the corner of the eye, the mouth, pretty much almost the center of the iris. This one, like the edge of the iris. So I noticed that it was kind of moved in on that side. For his mouth, it doesn't line up how it should, because obviously he's making a face, but I'm looking at this little corner, and what does it line up with? Okay, it lines up with the edge of the white of the eyeball on this side. What does it line up with on this side? Oh, it actually lines up with the iris on that side. So you're gonna use your eyes to base all your other features. Okay, flip over, pause if you need to. So yes, you're doing this again and again and again, because there's no better way to see it in yourself than by looking at other people. The observation skill part. Okay. So then I'm just going to slide my ruler down. It should be about the same angle for the nose, about the same angle for the mouth. Then I would look at like where do his ears line up on this side. Lines up with the nostril, the center almost. But on this side, so parallel to the eye. Okay, almost the same. Slightly lower on the left. Leonardo DiCaprio is not symmetrical. There we go. Okay, so then I tilt it to where like this line is vertical in front of me, so that I can kind of see how the nose lines up with the eyes. and then the mouth. Oh, that one doesn't go as far. Not symmetrical, because it lined up in the inside, like white part of the eye. Okay, corner to corner. And so then I kind of, his nose is a little pointier at the bottom. So I'm going to kind of give myself the guideline, because here are his nostrils and those are tilted according to his face. So I wouldn't like, oh, just, I mean, you could give it another little guideline for the tip of the nose, that's fine. Okay, corner to corner for the mouth. And then I'd probably do like another guideline for that part. But you can see that it's parallel, parallel, parallel. Even though he's smiling, his head is tilted, etc. Okay, so nostrils line up with the inside of the eyes. Corner of the mouth, since he's smiling, still does line up with the center of the iris. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, depending on how big your mouth is. All right. Her head is slightly tilted, so I'm going corner to corner for the eyes. Okay, and then we'll do the center of her face. I'm gonna do it in two. I was thinking, and then we'll curve it, like, 'cause she's really turned away from the camera. And then you can go back and curve that. So that might be helpful if you're totally turned away, is having the central axis be more of a curve. For this one, I'm going to slide down. And I usually look at like the nostrils or the bottom of the nose. Kind of depends on the shape of the nose. Parallel. Okay, so now looking at how do the things line up. So this one is a good example actually. So her nostril lines up with the white part of the eyeball. And then over here, it lines up a little bit further in from the tear duct, but not very far. So it's because she's turned, you know, so far away from the camera. And we call this a 3/4 view. All right, so looking at how her mouth lines up with the eye, like pretty much the inside corner. Over here, outside corner, because she's turned away from us. And then I would look at, okay, I'm guessing the bottom of the ear would be about here, the top of the ear probably about there, lines up with the eye. So then you can use it for other things. Okay, this guy. So outside corner to corner, we'll do his central axis. I'm always looking at the center of the nose for the central axis. Okay, parallel, so I should be able to slide my ruler down. And slide my ruler down corner to corner. So even though he's making a face, still the nostrils line up with the inside corner of the eye, outside corner of the mouth, kind of in the center of where the iris would be. And this one is probably a little to the right of center. Pause if you need to. Yes, again and again we're going to do this. Because hopefully, because this is really something that until I draw it on your paper, you don't see it, but I can't draw it on your paper. So I want you guys to be able to see this. This is super helpful in the drawing part. Okay, central axis. So I look at how his ears come up to eyebrows. Okay, where do the bottom of his ears go? So like below the nostrils. All right. So eye level, pull it down. And he's looking pretty straightforward. Parallel, corner to corner, parallel. All right, then looking at his nose. So his eyes are actually moved in a little bit. I feel like they're not as far in as they look like. The corner of his eye is probably about right here, which is almost even with the nostril. Same thing. Okay, corner of the mouth. It lines up with like the inside part of the iris. Like his mouth is a little bit small. But it still lines up with the eye. So I look at like where exactly does it line up with the eye? Jimi Hendrix. Okay, we've got corner to corner. his central axis. So I'm looking at the center of the lips, center of the nose. So we have parallel, parallel, parallel facial features. All right, looking at his nose, lines up with the inside corner and a little bit in from the inside corner on this side because his head is slightly tilted away from us. So it's like the white part of the eye right there. Okay, mouth. And so it lines up with the edge of the iris, and then the mouth over here, the middle of the iris. So slightly different. This lady, totally tilted, central axis. We're gonna guesstimate where that corner is. And her nose is pointy too, like her nose ends here. So that's like the first mark that I usually draw, but I'm gonna go with the nostrils, like the tilt of the nostrils. So we have nostril here, nostril there. Okay, then parallel, corner to corner, mouth. All right, so looking at how to, and so I'll turn this so it's like vertical in front of me. So I'm gonna go, the nostrils line up with the inside part of the eye, corner of the mouth lines up with like middle of the irises. Okay, so what if you're smiling? Very few of you are actually smiling in your self-portraits, but it might change slightly. So her head is slightly tilted. Let me do central axis. So she also, because she has way more of the right-hand side facing, her central axis is like that other one. Where, and I'm finding the center of the teeth, center of the lips. So then you can curve it a little. If you're really struggling, if you're like, oh, I'm not good at drawing, I would draw all of these guidelines first, like super light, and we'll use the grid to kind of help guide where those lines would go. So I would draw these guidelines. I definitely do it for the eyes, nose, and like the general one for the mouth, but the rest of the stuff you're just kind of paying attention to and looking. Okay, so the edge of her nostrils, like the edge of the eye there, inside corner, edge of the mouth in the center of the eye, edge of the mouth, center of the eye. And I look at where does her ear line up? Well, it's almost like the center of the mouth for her, and I'm gonna guesstimate that it's a little bit lower up there. Last page. Okay, central axis. Eye level, corner to corner. Okay, parallel, so that's slightly tilted. So I'm gonna move my ruler down, parallel, move my ruler down, parallel. Okay, looking at how her nose lines up with her eyes. So side of the nostril, interior corner, other side of the nostril, interior corner, side of the mouth. On the very edge of the iris on the inside. So I feel like she has actually some bigger eyes. A little bit over. So look at where would the ear line up? So that you have things to line up with. All right, so let's say you're making a goofy face or your eyes are just a little bit bigger. Or your face is at an angle to where you can barely see your lips. Parallel. I would still go corner to corner. Because even though her mouth dips down, the corners are still parallel to each other. All right, looking at the nose. So she's a little bit younger. Your proportions are different when you're younger. And a little bit different when you're older too, actually. But still, they should line up in a similar location as an adult. Similar, sometimes it's different. Okay, looking at where her ear lines up. Okay, all right. Corner to corner. So her central axis is gonna be like the other two. I'm looking at the center of the lips. And then that would get like curved, okay. Oops, sorry. Okay, lining up, sliding down. So I'm using her nostrils because the tip of her nose kind of dips down. So I'm looking at the nostril there, and then I would do a little line for the tip. All right, so looking at her nostril side, it lines up still with the inside of the eye, this one inside of the eye. She's really smiling, so it's the outside of the iris. And then this lines, I would look more at the nose. It lines up with the edge of the nose there. If I pull it up, like the edge of the mouth is more in because she's really tilted away from us. Okay, where's the ear lined up? With like the bottom of that eye. So I just find something that's already drawn to line it up. Okay, so let's say you're really facing away, corner to corner. And so even though she doesn't look like it, her head is slightly tilted. So even if you meant to look straight forward, most of the time, your head is tilted. Okay, so for this one, looking at the edge of the nose, it lines up with the center of the iris over here because her face is really pointed away from us. This nostril, almost the corner of the eye. Her mouth, ooh, like the actual tear duct. Mouth over here, side of the nose it lines up with. And then if I continue, it's like the inside corner of that eye. Okay, looking at where her ears line up. Wow, with her mouth. Oh, she's a very famous actress. I never knew her ears were so big. Interesting. Your nose and your ears grow your whole entire life. Those are the one, oh, feet too, will continue to grow slightly. So that's why sometimes older people have bigger noses and bigger ears because those are the things that continue to grow in your body. Anyway, food for thought. Okay, so now that we've completed this is going to make it so much easier to pick out like the tiltedness of the head. So for instance, I remember when she drew hers, it was really hard to get the eyes because she didn't have, it was hard to get the mouth too because she didn't have the correct angle for the eyes. So then when she made her guidelines, like everything was off and she ended up restarting. But it turned out really good when she actually did this one. Okay, I will see you in the next video.